Outcome measure or process measure? Do you know the difference? Well, understanding this one distinction can really make or break your magnet documentation. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking it all down for you. So stay tuned, because today we're going to be talking about how to get it right before you write. So let's talk about it. Hi everyone, I'm Katie Stevens, and welcome back to Excellence in Nursing. I am a nursing consultant, a coach, and an educator, and one of the things that I do is I work with magnet program directors and healthcare organizations to help them successfully navigate the magnet journey. And then, of course, as we do that, elevate nursing practice in the process. One of the biggest pitfalls that I see in magnet documentation is confusing process measures with outcome measures. And while they are both really important, getting them mixed up can really be a deal breaker for your magnet submission. And that's why today I wanted to break this concept down in a way that is clear, actionable, and easy to apply, so that when it comes time for you to write up all of your great magnet work, you're going to know exactly how to frame all of your work for maximum impact. And if you're passionate about nursing excellence and the magnet journey, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you never miss a video packed with practical strategies and insights. Here's what we're going to be covering in today's video. First off, we're going to be defining outcomes and process measures, what they are and why they matter. Then I'm going to be walking you through some real life examples so that you can see exactly how these play out in real life, as well as in your magnet documentation. And then we're going to wrap it up with some common mistakes that I see that people tend to make. And then, of course, more importantly, how you can avoid those. My goal by the end of this video is that you'll have a clear, no-nonsense approach to using the right measures in your magnet documentation so that your submission is strong, it is clear, and it is outcome-focused. All right, let's start with the basics. What do we mean by outcomes and process measures? This is really a foundational piece of knowledge for strong magnet documentation, and getting it right from the outset, from the get-go, will really make your writing process and your overall magnet journey so much easier and smoother. If you want even more guidance on this topic, be sure to check out Chapter 5 of our free 80-page MPD handbook. I'll link that below. We also wrote a blog post breaking this down step by step with more examples, so we'll also make sure that's included below. Let's start with outcome measures. What are outcome measures? Well, outcome measures answer the question, what was actually achieved as a result of all of the work that we've been doing? What was the end result? What was the actual impact on the patient and or family? These are all the results that actually prove that nursing practice, that all of the nursing interventions that we do have a real tangible impact on patient care. So some examples of outcomes are things like hospital-acquired infection rates and other nursing-sensitive indicators, things like pressure injury rates or falls with injury. It could be readmission rates or patient satisfaction scores, things like HCAHPS. So all of these metrics are outcomes, and they show us whether or not all of the things that we're doing in nursing, all of the interventions that we put in place, are they actually making a difference in the lives of the patients that we care for? And on the other hand, process measures actually track all of the actions taken to achieve those results. So they actually don't measure the impact directly. They measure compliance with steps, with protocols, with the guidelines, or all of the interventions that we have. And so some examples of process measures are things like hand hygiene compliance, completion of patient education, adherence to sepsis protocols and bundles. It could also be the percentage of nurses that were trained for certain things like maybe fall prevention strategies. So again, all of these are process measures. What they do is they track what has been done, but they don't necessarily tell us whether or not the outcome has improved as a result. So it hasn't really told us whether or not we've achieved anything. It talks about all the steps involved. To put it simply, outcome measure the result, while processes measure actions. So both matter. Both are critically important, in fact. However, what I will tell you is that in magnet documentation, outcomes are really the main focus. They really take center stage, because what they do is they actually demonstrate the real, tangible impact of nursing and nursing practice. All right, let's break this down in a way that actually makes sense. I want you to think about process measures and outcome measures like baking a cake or reaching a fitness goal. So stick with me here. I think this will make a lot of sense. In the example of baking a cake, process measures are like following your recipe. You preheat the oven, you mix up all your ingredients, you set a timer, you follow all the instructions. But here's the thing. If your cake comes out looking like a deflated pancake or hard as a hockey puck, something in your process didn't actually work. You didn't actually get the result that you wanted, that you were looking for. Maybe you forgot the baking powder. Maybe you thought that, eyeballing all of the measurements was a good idea. Maybe you opened the oven door too many times because you were just checking. Whatever happened, your process didn't give you the outcome that you wanted. It's the same thing with nursing practice. If your patient outcomes aren't improving, don't just celebrate that you followed all of the steps. We actually have a responsibility to go back and to troubleshoot and to fix the process. Now let's take another example. Let's talk about fitness. So process measures for, say, a fitness goal would be things like tracking all of your workouts, counting your calories, prepping all of your healthy meals, and drinking those spinach and kale smoothies that we all pretend that we like. There's a lot of steps involved in getting in shape and losing weight, of course. So outcome measures in this scenario are whatever your goal was. So if you were looking to lose weight, or maybe your goal was to improve endurance. So are you able to run further? Maybe it was lowering your blood pressure. Did that actually take place? Or maybe it was fitting into those jeans from 5 years ago, whatever your goal was. But here's the kicker. If you're doing all of that prep work, if you're following all of those steps that we talked about earlier, but you're not seeing the results, something in your process isn't working. So again, it's the same thing with nursing practice. If your patient outcomes aren't improving, we need to go back and revisit the process. So whether you're baking a cake, you're working on a fitness goal, or maybe you're trying to improve nursing practice, the process really matters. You need steps, you need structure, and you need a plan. That's how you get consistent over time, and that's how you really improve. But at the end of the day, the outcome is actually what proves ultimate success. So let's bring this now into the real world. How does this play out in nursing practice? So let's say that your organization is focused on reducing patient falls. Let's break down the steps and the process measures in this scenario. The process in reducing falls is doing things like following your falls bundle or your falls protocol. That's things like ensuring that nurses complete their fall risk education, monitoring how often fall risk assessments are performed, making sure that high-risk patients get on their non-slip socks or their bed alarm. Also, confirming that hourly rounding is taking place. So all of these are steps that are being taken, but they don't actually tell you whether or not falls decreased. That's where outcome measures come in. Outcome measures tell us whether or not all of those interventions that we were doing actually led to a reduction in patient falls. So this is where we start asking things like, did fall rates actually decrease? Did we actually see fewer falls with injury? Were there measurable improvements in patient safety? Do you see the difference? The process measures track what was done, so all of the education, the rounding, the risk assessments, but the outcome measures prove what was achieved. And hopefully in this scenario, we achieved a reduction in fall rates. And just like we talked about with the two examples that we brought up before, following the recipe or, the fitness routine, you can follow all the steps, you can check every box, and you can, document everything perfectly. But if patients are still falling, something is not right there, which means we need to go back, we need to investigate, and we need to pinpoint and figure out why, what is going on, and then, potentially tweak something. Here's another example. Let's take sepsis management. Process measures for sepsis care might include tracking compliance with completing your sepsis bundle within a certain amount of hours. And of course, within that bundle, there's, a bunch of things that roll up into there, like drawing your lactate levels or your blood cultures, etc. And all of these are process measures, which definitely help us standardize care. But again, on their own, they don't tell us whether or not patients actually got better. Outcome measures in this scenario tell us if whether or not all of those sepsis interventions actually improved patient survival and recovery. So for example, outcome measures would be in this case, things like, did we see an actual reduction in sepsis mortality rates? Or did we see a decrease in the percentage of sepsis patients requiring an ICU admission? It could also be things like shorter hospital length of stay for sepsis patients. So again, the process measures track whether or not the steps were completed, while the outcome measures really prove whether those steps made a real impact on patient care. Now let's talk about the two biggest mistakes I see when it comes to magnet documentation, and more importantly, how you can avoid those. The first thing that I often see is that organizations spend so much time tracking all of their process measures that sometimes they forget to measure the results, or they forget to tie all of those processes to results. So maybe your team is really great at tracking hand hygiene compliance, but if you're not also measuring whether or not infection rates are improving, then you're really missing the bigger picture. My recommendation here is always connect the process to an outcome. So if you're looking at a process measure, always ask yourself, how can I prove this intervention actually made a difference? What is the result of all of this work? So again, always try to tie your process measures to a measurable improvement in patient care. The second biggest mistake that I see is reporting process measures as if they are outcome measures. So just totally getting them mixed up. So as if they're interchangeable, which hopefully after this video, it's pretty clear that these two are not interchangeable. And what I will say is that, especially for your magnet documentation, if you continue to get these things mixed up, it'll really hurt or hinder your journey, and then it'll definitely hurt your documentation. So how do you avoid mixing these up? Well, what I recommend is that when you're, getting ready to write up your magnet documentation, or as you're looking to see whether or not a story is going to fit, ask yourself a few things. Does this measure actually show what was achieved? Do we have a tangible result here? Or does this just track all the things that were done? So again, if it only tracks completion or compliance, this is a process measure. So my recommendation here is, again, to always link your process measures to a measurable patient outcome, to a measurable difference in patient care. And that is a wrap for today. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button and subscribe for more insights on magnet recognition and nursing excellence. And don't forget that we've got free resources to help you. So if you need a deeper dive on this topic, make sure that you download our MPD handbook. Chapter 5, again, I think will be specifically helpful on this topic. And then we've also got a full blog post as well with additional insights and some examples. So you'll find all of those on our website, and I'll link all of this below in the description. If you're still feeling stuck on how to frame your data, or if you have some questions on outcomes, or maybe you need just some overall guidance on your magnet journey, our on-demand consulting services are designed to provide flexible, personalized support. So whether it is you need just a quick strategy session, or maybe you need some deeper coaching on your documentation, you'll find all of the details in the description below. And before we go today, just remember that on the journey to excellence, you are the one that makes all the difference. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.